Out of this world. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
I hope with the question mark also.
The poster is so fuzzy that I thought it said out of this worth, and I was like, that can't be correct.
Out of this
Out of
world.
this world. This is
Out of this
totally
worth.
rad.
Uh, this is episode 191 of I Hope You Suffer. My
Wow.
name is Nathan.
I'm Scooter.
Scooter's back. I'm Katie.
This week we watched 1998's Uzumaki, the Spiral without fucking Chris Rock.
So I watched Spiral with Chris Rock.
Yeah, I should have.
I saw that you
It
did.
rocked. Not gonna lie.
Didn't you give it like 2 stars?
Give it 3.
Maybe 3, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Does it work as a Saw movie, or is it like a completely...
Yeah, I mean it's basically just a Saw movie, but without Tobin Bell. You know,
I'll end up watching it eventually. I'm just not gonna pay to watch it.
it was the most entertained I've been with them, like since the second or whatever.
It can't be worse than Jigsaw, so...
It is insane. Like the last like 15 minutes. It's just like, what? Is this really happening? All the gore's pretty good. So
I say I've been waiting for it to, like, I don't know, hit Hulu or some shit that I can watch it for free, because I'm just definitely not
oh yeah.
Yeah.
paying for it.
I didn't pay for it.
Alright, so we'll talk about the other Spiral. This was one of Katie's picks for a good movie that I would argue against.
Listen,
Damn.
you said no. You said
I
to
know.
pick a movie that was good that I liked. Did I expect that you guys were gonna like this? Absolutely not.
I
But
actually I didn't hate it. I got very bored like halfway through. Is mostly
yeah.
was my issue.
Yeah.
And the CGI pretty bad.
So I watched this it's on Prime for free right now, like I said last time. I watched it on the iPad though, and like it being so small, the CG did not look that weird to me just because it's not like I was watching it on like a high def TV or something, so that didn't bother me at all.
I think it was just like when the eyes get all big and it looks like fucking Black Hole Sun music video. I was just
Yeah,
like,
Dude
I
started
don't know.
spinning his eyes around. It was incredible.
I was just like, I can't deal with
So-
this.
Let me talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So this movie came out in 2000, and I was 14. So who's that?
That's Lex. Lex is crying.
I don't think I've
Lex-
ever heard him before. It's normally Xerxes like wow.
Lex, like when he cries, he's got a very like high pitched but like low cry, unless he's like actually getting attacked by Xerxes or something.
Yeah.
Then
yeah.
he just like screeches like the fucking baby in Demons 2.
Aw. Yeah, so like I said at the end of that last episode, Uzumaki, it means spiral, or the translation is spiral. And the manga was written and illustrated by Junji Ito, and it came out in Japan in like 98-ish is when it started, and it was like serialized, so it was like, it was a manga, but it was like different chapters would come out. And the translation came to the United States in 2001, 2002. So that was like pretty much around the time, like 90 I want to say like really, really late 90s, early 2000s is when I like first started getting into like anime. And like I've talked about before, I wasn't really like exposed to much horror at that point. So the fact that I was like getting into anime at that point and like all of that stuff, and then I immediately found that there was like Japanese horror, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. So I saw this movie when it came out, probably like the year after. So let's say 2001, and I was like 15, right? I bought the DVD at Suncoast, and I didn't know anything about it. I bought it based off of
R.I.P.
the
to a
cover.
real one.
Honestly, though,
I can't tell you how many fucking movies I still owe that I bought at Suncoast when I first bought a DVD player.
my first two like actual DVDs I bought from there, and I still have them. I don't have Uzumaki anymore, unfortunately. You know how you get into something and you're into something for a really long time, and then you get into something else and you kind of move on, and you're like, I'm never going to be into this thing again.
Then you want
I
it
don't know.
back.
I don't know that you do this, but like maybe people will like, So after I kind of like got over like anime and stuff like that, and I was moving at the time, so I literally sold all of my like J horror DVDs, and I highly, highly regret it at this point, because I'm just like not in a position to be like rebuying them. I did rebuy like Cairo, but that's it. Anyways, so yeah, so this was like one of the very first like Japanese movies I saw that also was a J horror, and to be 15 and to watch this movie, I thought it was so unsettling and creepy. And there's a scene that we'll get to that like literally has stuck with me like until now, until my entire life. So that's why I picked this, and I feel like it's actually a pretty good representation. Like, this is the first time I've watched the movie in a really long time, like at least 10 years, just because it hasn't been like available. And it's not as, I'm not going to say it's not as good as I remember it, but it definitely had like a bigger impact on me at the time. And rewatching it, there's still a lot of things I really like about it. But yeah, I don't know that I would like, oh yeah, if you're into horror, you should definitely like check this out. Like, there are some other movies that I would recommend over it. But like, if you look at like the other J horror that was coming out at the time, it was essentially like The Grudge 2,
Right.
one of the many Ring sequels. And then this movie was actually released with like a double feature of a Tomie movie. So like at the time, this was really unique for what was coming out, because it wasn't just like, you know, like a long-haired ghost girl tormenting people or whatever.
Like Amityville Poltergeist.
Yes, exactly. But so I don't know. I still really liked it. This movie came out like they shot it in like 2 weeks, and then it was released like way before the actual manga was finished. So a lot of the stuff that happens in it, it's not like, you know, it's not like straight from the manga, and they just kind of like made stuff up and then they made up the ending. And if you're somebody who if you're somebody who likes comics and wants to read it, the manga storyline is like way better and fucked up, and it's like really good. So I definitely encourage people to get that, because you can get it as like a whole collection now, and it's definitely worth it. But I don't know, I still really like it, and I think part of the problem is that it is a little long for what happens. Like, there definitely are some really like slow parts, but I always love like movies that have weird stories. Like, we've kind of talked about how interesting, I don't want to say weird, Junji Ito is, because I highly respect him. I don't think, but he essentially like had this idea that he wanted to write a horror story about people who lived like in row housing. And he's like, I just want to see what would happen. Also, I want there to be some kind of like symbol involved. So he came up with the spiral. And then like in preparation to write the manga, he himself like kind of became obsessed with spirals. He would like stare at spiral images. He would like eat food that was like spiral shaped. And then he like started raising snails for it too, which I think is just like such a weird like thing to do. But I just love when people are like just like kind of like really go for it with whatever they're creating. That's like the thing I took away about this like whole story is like he's just like, I'm gonna raise snails now.
Kim,
For what?
what did you think about this?
I just thought it was okay. Like I didn't have strong feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's mostly
a
where I was
lackluster
at.
follow-up to Katie's deep dive, but
I mean,
No, you're fine.
this is definitely like I see why, like this was one of like this is Katie's shit like to a T. I think.
Yeah.
I'd love to read the manga eventually. Like I've been wanting to, anyway, because it's influential and Junji Ito has a lot of really cool visuals, and I think a lot of the visuals translate well to the movie, but it kind of dragged in the middle, and it was one of those things where I'd look and something cool's happening, and then it's just kind of a lot of nothing for a while. So I don't know. It was okay. I think it's worth watching. I definitely didn't dislike it.
I think that's mostly where I'm at. Like this was produced by Toho, which has done a bunch of shit like I really like Hausu and the Bloodthirsty trilogy and like a bunch of the like cool Godzilla shit. Yeah. And so like when that came up, I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is gonna be so cool. And like there's some pretty cool imagery in this. Like I like the way a lot of it is shot. Like the cinematography when it's like real weird close-ups on people's faces and stuff like that, I was like pretty into, but kind of like Kit said, like it hit the middle point and I was just like, all right, something please happen, because I just lost interest about halfway through until about like the last like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And like for all intents and purposes, it is like, you know, an adaptation from a comic, which, you know, sometimes really works or really doesn't. And the producer, or not producer, I'm sorry, the director, this was like I think his first movie that he directed, and then he only did like a handful of other things too. So sometimes I don't know that I'm not saying that the movie's not directed well, but I do think there are definitely areas that they could have done maybe something different, because it is an hour and a half long, and it kind of, I agree with you guys, like it does drag a little bit in the middle. And like the only other thing is, it's like, I don't know, the whole point of the movie is like the symbols and symbolism, right? So there's a lot of things that unless you're going into it knowing like certain things about like Japanese culture or things like that, the symbols don't mean anything to you and you're not going to see them. And that's a lot of what they did in that middle point, where there would just be like, I don't know, random spirals in different places, or letters that have like significance to the spiral, like 6 or 9 repeating on license plates or something like that.
Nice.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. There's a lot of like really, really subtle things that are embedded in it that just like, I don't know, if you're watching it as just like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch this horror movie, it kind of, the point's kind of drawn out a little bit, but like, yeah. I don't know. There's some.
So there, like, I guess Adult Swim has an anime coming out based on this that I think I'd be more interested in seeing, because I feel like animation would probably work really well for like this, the story this movie is telling.
Yeah, I agree. It's really cool too because they're doing it in black and white, like like manga, which is not something that's very common at all. And it's actually supposed to come out like this fall.
Yeah, it's
it's
in October, but
I feel like I talked about this like forever ago, that they were like starting to like put it into like they were starting to make it like probably last year. So hopefully it actually will come up this year. And I think that's the issue with something, because like you're right. Okay, the CG, obviously skipping ahead a little bit of spoilers, the CG around Shuichi, like the main character's boyfriend, that was not good at all. And I feel like that idea where his body's all like twisted up. The idea of that to me does sound scary, but the way that they were able to physically show it was not great. So I feel like there are some things that you're able to do better as an actual live action movie, like the creepiness of just like people's actions. Like when the dad starts like swirling his like soup around, that like freaked me out. And it's just like when it's animated, you do lose the kind of like, I don't know, just like seeing real people be fucking creepy. But then it's like, when you flip it the other way, there's a lot of stuff that you can pull off with drawings and animations that look way better than anything you could ever do in a movie. So I don't know, it's give or take, but the story itself is really good. So like, yeah, definitely recommend the manga. I'm excited. I haven't watched anime in a long time, but I'll probably watch it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that after watching this, I'll probably check out, whenever. I don't know if they're doing it as a movie or a TV series or not, but I'll watch that.
I think it's supposed to be like, I think they're doing it in 4 parts maybe. So like maybe not as long as a movie, but like longer than an episode.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not
it'll
really
probably
sure.
be like roughly 2 hours, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
Eh.
So we'll see. I hope it's the manga story because it's pretty badass.
I was gonna ask what like I guess when we get to the ending, you could tell us the difference.
Well, I'm not going to tell you the difference for people who actually want to. It's completely different though, because like I said, the manga wasn't finished and they just like made something up
Look,
for the movie.
spoilers. So there, we're covered. Now you can tell us at the end. Because
Well,
I'm
but
never
you
gonna
don't
read
have to
it.
read it.
Oh, I guess that's
I'll
true.
tell you.
Yeah, you can tell
I'll
me
tell
later.
you. But I will say,
I don't know how
like,
to read.
they
I'm never reading this
basically-
shit.
Right. You can just look at the pictures. You don't have to read what they're saying. No, they did, as with any adaptation, they did just like pick and choose stuff because like, the girl, that like freaky bathroom girl that like has the spirally hair or whatever. I'm pretty sure in the manga that was actually Kyrie, which is like the main character. So they like, I don't know, they just like pick and choose stuff that they want to do, which is fine, but whatever.
It checks out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive in.
Okay. The end. No. Okay, so essentially, this movie starts with our main character, Kyrie, who tells us that she wants to tell us a story about her hometown. I will also add that this girl, this was like her very first acting role, so I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah, she's pretty fine in it. Like,
yeah, she's fine. So immediately we see a dead person, and the camera is like kind of like on his face. He's dead. He's got blood coming out of him. He's got like a really weird expression on his face, and the camera is like spiraling, panning out from him, and we basically just see that we're like looking down a spiral staircase. Get ready to hear the word spiral a lot because obviously he's dead. So then we just cut to Kyrie. She's on her way home from school and she's late for something, and a heavy gust of wind comes and scares her. That actually reminded me of Tag. That like killer wind.
yeah, that's what like
from
when this
Tag.
started, I was like, oh, if this is gonna be like that opening of Tag, I'm fucking way in.
Listen, nothing is like that opening scene of Tag. So then we get a card, I guess, that says Chapter 1, Premonition. So she's running home through the town, and we see that this is like kind of like an older, like traditional Japanese town. The whole movie is shot with like this super, super dull, like overtone to it that I really liked. This was when
I saw somebody on Letterboxd review it by saying this movie would be great if it didn't have like a green tinge to it. And I was like, if that's what's taking you out of this fucking movie, then
I love it.
Yeah,
I
did
feel
too.
like, I hate to say, because I know that there's a lot of discourse on this, but give me a dull green or like a blue filter, I will watch the shit out of it. Like the like the first Ring, like like the American Ring. I love it.
I'm always saying
Saw also
the
blue. I'll watch a green or blue filter.
the thing missing from Last Vampire on Earth that would have made it a masterpiece. Just a little green filter.
Green
Honestly, green. Yeah, give it to me.
Just
Alien
imagine
Resurrection, so good.
Just imagine fucking what's her name holding that gun.
With a green filter on her ass. Love it.
That's Academy Award right there.
Yeah, you know what? I
His
almost
name
think
is
it would make it too good.
I love him.
It would be too good. That's why they had to step it back.
Yeah, they would have to end cinema.
Movies still had to come out after that, you know?
We should do that movie again.
Oh my god. I don't.
Side note, there's a movie that if we ever decide to do like a month of just the worst things we could find, there's a movie called I think it was 2025, The World Enslaved by a Virus, about
oh no,
my god,
some fucking Christian movie about how COVID is going to enslave the whole world because the communists. And
sure.
What?
It's got a 0.9 stars on Letterboxd right now.
That's
oh my god.
It's too high.
0.9?
Yeah.
I will say, I don't know why, but I did recently re-listen to that last Vampire on Earth episode, and sound issues aside, because the sound is kind of shitty on my end, that episode is I think one of our funniest episodes.
Yeah. It's because that movie was fucking ridiculous. I'm gonna put that in my favorites of Letterboxd. Fuck it.
Okay, do it. All right.
Top 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Goodbye Possession. Last Vampire on Earth.
I love it. Okay, so Kirie is running home from school. Suddenly, this guy named Yamaguchi jumps out and scares her. And if he doesn't have just the creepiest face ever, he literally jumps out in the street and scares her. And she's like, what? And he asks her to be his girlfriend, and she's like, no, see ya, and then she runs away.
That guy's a psycho, but he's my favorite part. Just every 15 minutes. Surprised?
Can
you imagine that being your real life?
Oh my god. Murdered on the third surprise.
Yeah, I would give him 2, and then I would just stab him the third time. I
mean, honestly, he deserves it. So she runs away from him. She sees who we will find. I didn't write his name down, but he is Shuichi's dad. Shuichi is Kirie's childhood best friend, and at first you kind of think that they're dating because they hang out all the time and are together all the time and love each other and stuff. But later she's talking to her friend and she's like, no, we're not really dating. And I was like, girl, sure you're not. Anyways, she sees his dad kind of hunched over looking at a fence, and she says hi, but he doesn't hear her, and she just moves on. And then it turns out that he is videotaping a snail. So very normal.
Same.
Been there.
Yeah. So she leaves. She is waiting in a tunnel, and this is when Shuichi shows up on a bicycle. She gets on, and they ride around the town. There's a running gag where they ride their bikes past this cop station, and he comes out and yells at them because apparently it's illegal for 2 people to ride one bicycle. But this first part is really funny because for whatever reason, there is a wanted poster on the wall, and it is of Junji Ito next to a picture of a manga panel of him from the manga. So I'm not really sure what was up with that, but I thought it was pretty funny. Now, so they go to a park. They're swinging on some swing sets, and she's basically just complaining about how school sucks, which yeah. And there's also just somebody that's walking backwards up the street. And I guess one of the things I like about this movie so much is even though it's kind of long, there's always some fucking weird thing happening in the background that she is just completely oblivious to. such as a person walking backwards up the street. And it looked really weird. And she's just like, man, school's a drag. And I was like, all right, well, like that guy's got bigger issues than that, huh? So basically, she tells Shuichi that she saw his dad videotaping a snail. And he's just like, yeah, my dad's been weird lately. She's like...
What an understatement.
She's like, I know. He is actually also like, anytime I write his lines, I write him as kind of just like, yeah, whatever, my dad's weird. He's like very stoic the whole time, like doesn't really show any emotion. It's just very like, everything is very normal that's happening to me.
Yo, I have some good news.
What?
My Flesh for Frankenstein movie from Vinegar Syndrome shipped.
Hell yeah.
Thank God. I've been waiting for that update.
Pins and
Nathan.
needles. I know everybody was.
Yeah, your dad's weird. And she's like, like you seem like you've been studying. We find out that he's trying to get into Tokyo University, which is like the most prestigious like university. So he's like studying a lot or whatever. And she's like, you seem like you've been studying too much. And then he asks her to elope with him. And she's like,
Normal.
Yeah, very normal.
There's a lot of normal things that happen in this movie.
Very. She's like, hee, I don't think so. What are you talking about? And he's like, never mind. Gotta go. And then also a siren goes off, and I fucking hate these sirens. They creep me out. I'm assuming the siren happens more than once, and I'm wondering, I don't know, I should have looked into it more, but I don't know if maybe it was supposed to be some kind of curfew or like just fucking scary. I don't know. Anyways, so Kyrie goes home, and we find out that her dad is a prize-winning potter. Like, he makes pottery, not he is part of the Harry Potter family, just in case you were confused.
Could be.
God.
I haven't seen any of those movies, so I'm just going to assume it's he's a Harry Potter.
Yeah. And so Shuichi's dad is also there, like talking to her dad, filming him basically throwing some pottery. I mean, like making it. And he's got his camcorder like right in this guy's face, and he's just like, yeah, pottery's the best. Pottery's the truest art. The one with the true spiral. And Curious Dad's just like, haha, yeah, yep, I see that. So he's like pretty creeped out, right? And we see that he's like looking at the inside of the pot, and basically it's like wet clay still, and there's a spiral in it just from like his, him shaping the pot with his fingers or whatever. And he's just like, yeah, oh yeah, you're right, I see it. It's a spiral, hee hee. And then Shuichi's dad is just like, hey, will you make me a platter with a spiral shape that goes round and round and round? And Curious Dad's just like, okay, sure, no problem. But he's like literally got the camcorder like inside the bowl and his face, and like right up against his face, and it's like really strange.
I did like his character at this beginning, where he's just like a fucking weirdo, like filming all this shit
right off the gate. Yeah, because they don't ever establish like a base for him. He's just like weird from the beginning, and you're like, I don't know, maybe he's just a weird guy. And that's kind of like what Kyrie's take on it is she's kind of just like, I don't know, people are weird. And it's like, no, like something else is going on. Anyways, oh my gosh. So when Kyrie was like buying stuff for dinner, the guy, like the grocer, is like, oh, your dad won a prize, right? Here you go, and gives her this melon. And she serves the melon, and the dad like makes like a comment on it. And these are like fancy melons. They can be anywhere, like one single melon in Japan could be anywhere from like $15 to like $200 for that melon.
Caitlin and I don't remember how it started, but we got in this discussion about like what the most expensive fruit was. I think we were trying to figure out what like the most expensive like common fruit was, but every article was like the top 10, whatever, where it's just like, a square watermelon will cost you $40,000 or some shit.
Yeah. So the melon is kind of like the iconic one too, but it's just because like, and so people always come up with these articles that were like, oh man, don't go to Japan because fruit's so expensive. Fruit's $25 an apple or whatever. But they're literally like, I can't even go into the process, but they're like the most like labor intensive, pure like fruit you can get. And you literally buy them for people as like a special occasion. So like your dad is a prize winning potter or whatever, you get this melon. It's not like everyday fruit, but like
They all come with assault rifles. That's why they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Buy an apple, here's a gun. There you go.
I mean, we know where Kit's from, so it's probably true.
But yeah, I want
to
melon.
get a gun with your melon.
I see you're buying a honeydew. Here's your handgun.
Yeah, yep, there you go. Pineapples come with grenades today, so they're BOGO. The melon looks so good though. I really
It took
one.
me like half a second. I
So
was
does the
like,
gun.
what the fuck is a BOGO?
She said bogus real weird.
Yeah. Katie's drunk.
I wish. I'm actually not having a beverage today yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Okay. We also see that there is a shrine behind them that is Kyrie's mom, so we know that her mom's best. Then she's like in her room, she's looking at a photo album that's like childhood pictures of like her and Shuichi, and the pictures kind of like come to life, so we're seeing them sort of as like a home movie type thing. And then she laughs about the time that like her mom died, and then he was like, don't worry, I'll be your mom, and she's like, ha ha ha. I was like, okay, that doesn't seem like something to laugh about.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
I laughed.
So okay.
Yeah.
At school the next day, Kyrie is talking to her friend, and fucking Yamaguchi jumps out and scares them again.
Surprise.
And yeah, are you surprised? He's again like, hey, he's like, you're super hot, and if you would just date me, people would be jealous. I'm like, wow, what an offer. And so Curious friend is like, no, go away, leave us alone. And they turn down this hallway, and so the hallway that they're in is like super noisy, because it's like before school, there's like people are like going to classes and stuff. They turn down this hallway, and there's absolutely it's like dead quiet, and they're walking down the hallway, and all the students in there are just like standing still with their backs to the wall. And it was like so creepy, and Kyrie and her friend just like don't notice at all. They're just like, wow, being a teenager is hard. And I was like, oh my God. So they are just like, that guy's stupid. Whatever, let's go. And they start to walk up the stairs, and suddenly a body just drops down. The guy's like, wee, and jumps and just like slams down in the middle of the floor. And they're like, and so this is like the scene from the beginning where we just see like the body, and then it pans up, and we're looking down the spiral staircase, and all the kids are just like looking. So it cuts to Kyrie throwing up in the bathroom, and her friend is just kind of like, oh yeah, I heard he was doing aerobics on the railing. What an idiot. But then she's like thinking about it a little bit more, and she's like, it's kind of weird that he was smiling, right? Then these 3 girls come out of the bathroom, like the bathroom stalls, and one of them is like smoking a cigarette, and she's kind of just like a caricature of like a mean girl from like an anime. Like she's like over exaggerated and stuff. They're all really weird, but essentially they just like start talking about how like the only thing that matters in life is that people notice you. And so the guy who fell off the railing and died happy because people noticed him. And I was like, okay, that's fucked up.
Correct.
One of the girls goes, I love when people look at me. And I was like, oh my God.
Just
Cannot
fucking
relate.
just preparing for Instagram culture a couple years later.
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, and I'm like, girl, can't relate. I don't like when people
Yeah,
look at me at
nobody
all.
perceived me ever.
Do not. I don't wish to be perceived. So, um, then like after school, Kyrie is telling Shuichi about what happened, and he's like, "Oh, it was a spiral staircase, wasn't it?" And she's like, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he starts like telling her about he like draws it. This is one of the moments where like they're walking up to a bench, and up in the corner, the sand is just like spiraling really like, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't like it." And he draws a spiral pattern in the ground, and it's essentially just like telling her about how the spiral pattern was like drawn to draw your eye, and it also draws other people's eyes into or whatever, and that the guy who died was drawn in by the spiral. And she's like, and he's like talking about how he has a really bad feeling of, and anytime I assume that tunnel that she waits for him, he goes to school like outside of the town, and he comes back in like after school, and he's talking about how whenever he comes back through the tunnel, he gets a really bad feeling, and he gets dizzy and stuff, which I think is really interesting because we kind of talked about when we were talking. This is like really not sort of related, but not at all. When we were talking about Amityville, I know. And we were talking about kind of like the trope of it's normally like the like the wife in those movies are like, oh, something weird's happening, and the dad's like, no, you're fucking stupid. And then in the Dollhouse one, it was like the dad that had the psychic powers, and how like that was like interesting to me because it's like switching up the trope or whatever. And I felt like that was true of this movie too, where normally it's like the female character who is experiencing stuff that people don't believe her or whatever, and it's like the opposite in this, where the whole time he's like, wow, shit, there's bad shit happening, and she's just like oblivious and like also doesn't believe him, which I thought was really interesting. And so he's basically just like, hey, this town is cursed, and she's kind of just like, I don't know, like, what are you talking about, like kind of brushing him off. Meanwhile, Yamaguchi is watching them, and he is freaking out, and he like digs his fingernails into like this wood post, and it like made me cringe. It was it was very gross. So Kirie tells Shuichi that his dad asked her dad to make a spiral pattern piece or whatever, and Shuichi is like, okay, hello, do you see what I'm talking about? I was literally just talking about how everyone's obsessed with spirals, and you said they weren't, but then my dad was asking for like a spiral thing or whatever. Like, don't you see that? And she just kind of like doesn't believe him. So then he starts telling her the story about how like his dad's entire room is just like covered in spiral shaped stuff, and like we actually see it. He's just like sitting there staring at, I don't know, some iron that's like rolled into a spiral pattern, and there's just like stuff all over his room that's like spiral looking. And he's like he tried to talk to his mom about it, but she kind of was like ignoring him. And then his dad comes home, and she like serves them soup that has fish cakes in it, and the fish cakes are the ones that are like white, and then they have like a pink spiral in the middle, which are like super super common in like Japanese cuisine. So she feeds them that, and the dad is like eating them and like slurping them down, and it was so disgusting.
Yeah, it's gross. I hated
He's
it.
like, yeah, he's like, and when he finishes them, he's like, how am I supposed to eat soup without it? He like freaks out, and then this is when he really aggressively like starts stirring his soup with the chopsticks to make like the broth spiral around or whatever. And he's just like so unhinged. It was like creepy to me. So Shuichi gets done telling the story, and Kyrie literally laughs, and he's like, okay, it's not funny anyway, why don't you come to my house and see how fucked up my dad is? And she's like, okay. So when they get there, okay, and then when they get there, Shuichi's dad is like hitting his mom around, because he thinks that she threw away all of his spiral stuff. And then she's like, don't. It was me. Like, you're being fucked up. I threw your stuff away. And he's just like, okay, that's fine. I don't need that stuff anymore because one makes his own spiral. Not creepy at all. Oh, this is when he is like, yeah. And then he just starts like spinning his eyeballs around. And it looks really fucking weird.
I hate it.
It was like this weird kind of like, not quite top down, but it's like if you were as tall as him and you like put your foreheads together and you were like looking at him and then he was like blah, 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 with his eyeballs.
It's like MySpace angle.
It was his MySpace profile for his scene.
Yeah.
For his scene page. My Chemical Romance would play in the background.
I wish that's what this movie needed.
It's fucked up. Anyways, after watching this, Kyrie faints. Okay, so now we get chapter 2, Erosion. So this part is really strange. At school, basically, like they're having class, and a student comes in like super late, like the class is already way started, and the teacher's like, "What are you doing?" And this guy is like covered in clear goop, essentially, and he's just like, hey, sorry, I'm late or whatever. And there's like a bully in the background that's just like, haha, he's so slow, he's like a snail, and everybody laughs and shit. And he's like starts singing some kind of like nursery rhyme, and they're all like laughing, and the teacher's just like, okay, stop, like go to your seat, like you know you have detention or whatever. And so he's like, oh, okay. And so he starts walking to his seat. He is walking very slow, to be fair. And the bully trips him, and when he falls, he like gloops up, like gloop comes off of him and like gloops onto the bully. And the bully's like, hey, what the heck? And just starts kicking him. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, rude.
The teacher's like, hey, please stop. Please don't do that. And they're just like back there fucking kicking this guy. Also, there's some kind of weird shit pulsating out of his back under his clothes. And you can sort of see it because his clothes are like, he's wearing a white shirt and it's like see-through because of the gloop, and it's very disgusting. Oh man. So after school, Kyrie is walking home again. Fucking Yamaguchi jumps out again to scare her. And this time he's like, oh, did I scare you? And this time he holds up a box and he's like, here, I have this box. Why don't you open it? And so she does. And it's a Jack in the Box that pops out and scares her. And this time she gets mad and she shoves him over and he falls on the street and he says, why don't you like me? Bitch, it's probably because you won't, first of all, you're stalking her. And second of all, you won't stop jumping out and scaring her. Why would somebody like you? And she's just like, you're not my type. Okay, see ya. And he's like, I'm never giving up. Because that's not fucking creepy as hell.
Oof. This movie just predicted a lot of shit that was going to happen in like a couple years.
I mean, yeah, true. So Kyrie is waiting in the tunnel for Shuichi, but he doesn't show up. Then when she gets home, her dad asks her to bring over the pot that he had made for Shuichi's dad. It is dark and spooky as hell at this point. She walks up to their house and is like not like ringing the doorbell, no one's answering, but she hears these like thumping noises and she's just like, hello, is somebody there? And she like walks around to the side of the house and it does this like really weird, like kind of long pan out or whatever. And we see Shuichi and his mom coming home, and they hear her scream. So they run, and she basically is like scared out of her mind, and she's like pointing towards the washing machine, and they're like, what? So Shuichi walks up to it and looks inside, and he just says spiral, and his mom throws up. Ooh. What could it be? I thought that I'm wondering, I need to look it up. I thought that at this point you see what's happening, and then I was like, maybe they just cut it out, because I very clearly like have this image in my mind of like what's inside the washing machine, and it didn't line up with what we see later. So I don't know if I'm just like misremembering it or whatever, but I'll have to look it up. Anyways, we don't actually see what's in it at this point, but it cuts to basically Shuichi's dad's memorial, where there's people shit talking him, of course, because that's what you do, and they're basically just like, you know, having a memorial for him. His mom is outside, and she looks up into the oh my god.
Did you get scared again?
The cat just came and like jumped up underneath my arm, so it like hit my arm and I didn't see her. Hello. Okay. His mom looks up into the sky and screams. They do this weird thing like we were talking about earlier where they like make her eyeballs big. It reminded me of like Donnie Darko, and I was like, why did they do that? What a weird.
You just wish
like,
Jake
effect.
Gyllenhaal was in this.
That would be pretty interesting. But he's just like speaking English to everybody. They're like, what?
Matthew Broderick too.
Yeah.
No, stay out of my movies, Matrick. Michael Broderick Jr. Yeah, okay. So they're like, oh my god, wow. They look up and they see that the smoke from the chimney that basically is feeding out of the crematorium is spiraling in the sky. So the smoke is coming out like a spiral, and it looks pretty bad. Like, that would be pretty scary. And it also starts like funneling down, and we see it funnel down into a lake. They have taken Shuichi's mom at to the hospital because, you know, she, I guess she's just going through it. And Shuichi is like, says to Kirie, like, can we please just like get out of the town while we still can? Like, all of this bad shit's happening. And she's still kind of like, no. A reporter comes to talk to them and says basically that Shuichi's dad had asked, like, the reporting office or whatever you call it, like, for a history of the town, and he kept talking about spirals and stuff, and and then he's just like, the police told me what, you know, like, how he actually died, and that's really weird. And then also I heard about the smoke from the crematorium, and that was really weird too, so like, I want to know more about this or whatever, like, will you trust me? They then show the reporter the tape from, like, the tape that he was, like, filming, you know, like, the snails and all that shit on. And so they see the snails, they fast forward, and we see that, like, I don't know if they ever explained this in the movie, if I just looked away, but essentially we see, like, his dad opening the lid to the washer and, like, laughing, and he puts a mirror inside, and then he, like, gets into the washer, and, like, essentially it was just so that, like, he could, like, spoiler alert, see himself becoming a spiral. I don't know if they explain that at all. Anyways, the TV cuts out, and there's, like, a really, like, fast scene of, like, everyone's reflection in the TV, and we see, like, Shuichi's dad standing there with, like, a weird spirally tentacle thing coming out of his mouth. Nobody notices that he's there, though. Okay, so after that, the reporter is, like, driving Kirie home, and it's, like, dark. As they turn a corner, they, like, see her dad in the road, and for, like, a split second, he has that same, like, gross tentacle coming out of his mouth. But then when they get out of the car, they, like, run over to him, and he's, like, fine. He's just, like, covered in clay. And they're like, oh.
I feel like having a mouth tentacle would probably come in pretty handy sometimes.
I don't know, because is it, like, an elephant trunk where you can, like, drink stuff? Or is it just, like, is it coming out of your throat? Like, can you eat and stuff still?
I just assume you could, like, grab food from farther away without having to, like, use your arms.
Do you still have
like
your
an
tongue?
elephant trunk.
Yeah, I assume.
Like, does it replace your tongue, or is it in addition?
I assume it's both.
I think it's in addition, yeah. Because this is, like, a thing that's, like, growing out of them, I think.
That sounds awful. That's too many things in one's mouth.
I mean, I assume you.
Yeah, like, how is there room for you to still have a throat?
Well, you need a
like,
throat for.
But if it's coming to swallow.
Swallowing all the food that you lap up with your new tentacle.
To swallow your Dr. Pepper baked beans and what have you.
I mean,
Unless you want to eat them one bean at a time.
that's how I eat beans.
You gotta suck the bean up through
I
your
gotta,
little
I gotta
your tentacle straw.
savor that Dr. Pepper bean flavor.
That's true. So I don't know. Anyways, they're like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm fine. But he was getting clay to make his like pots and stuff from the lake, and he's acting weird now. Um, ooh. Shuichi goes to the hospital. He like checks on his mom and finds out essentially that she's cut her fingertips off because if you look at your fingerprint, it looks like a spiral. So that's gross.
Then he ate them.
She probably like what she probably did. Well, okay, but the mom is like scared of the spiral, so she's doing everything she can to like not be a part of it. So she like cut them off. I don't think she would swallow them. She probably threw them out the window.
She pooped on them.
She might have pooped on them. Flush them down the toilet's a good way to get rid of them. Then that night, Kyrie dreams of the time that she found her boyfriend's dad in the washer. But when she lifts the lid, she looks down, and we finally see what's in there, but it's her. I think it's supposed to be her. And it's essentially just like a person spun into a meat spiral. And she opens her eyes, and also her tongue is a gross spiral thing, and it looks really, really gross. And I remember the first time I saw this, that scared the absolute shit out of me. That it was just like, because like, if you went into a washer, like you're not gonna get spiraled up right like that. But
You might.
I don't know.
Only one way to
Yes,
find
there
out.
wasn't
Kid
it.
Science Corner.
R.I.P. Anyways, it looks really gross. She screams because obviously, like I said, it was a dream, and she hears some clanging around. So she goes to check on her dad in the studio. He's like being weird and like yelling at her to get away or whatever. He looks inside the kiln, and we see that he's got spirals in his eyes. This is when we get some like, I don't know, snippets of like weird shit happening to her classmates. So like the weird girl that was in the bathroom that was like, I just want to be seen or whatever. Her hair has turned into little spirals at the end. And the bully is drinking a bunch of water because now his back is pulsating, just like goop guys or whatever. And meanwhile, there's like a montage of the reporter doing research on like the history of spirals, essentially. Then the reporter is like, "Haha, I figured it out. Come to the pond. Come to the dragonfly pond so that we can talk about it." So on the way there, Kirie and Shuichi run into Yamaguchi, who doesn't scare her this time. He comes up and he's like, "Oh, I see. Like, you're not with me because you're with this loser. I'll make sure you never forget me." And then he just runs in front of a car and gets fucking murdered. He gets wrapped around the tire, and the person who's driving the car bashes their head into the windshield, and it makes like a spiral pattern, and also their eyeball is sticking out.
Yeah. It's a good way to keep your eyeballs.
It like weirdly zooms in on the eyeball in kind of a weird way. So they go to the lake, and essentially Kyrie, like they didn't just see another classmate murdered right in front of them and she like killed right in front of them, and they're just like, oh well. They go on to the lake, and she's like, wow, I hope this is just a dream that I'm gonna wake up from soon. And Shuichi is essentially just like, people are dying, like this is real. Chapter 3, visitation. At the hospital, at nighttime, a fucking huge centipede has climbed up Shuichi's mom's bed and goes into her ear. I said R.I.P. She's not actually dead, but I would die just knowing that there's a centipede looking in my ear because gross. She wakes up
What if
and
it's
like,
the doctor? That's your ear doctor. Is a centipede.
no.
You're paying him to look in there
Yeah.
out of pocket.
I would pay him
Out of
not to
pocket.
look in it in my ear.
Oh, you don't have a choice.
Oh,
This is what that 2025 movie's all about.
Yeah.
being forced to get your ears checked by a
Yeah,
centipede.
medical tyranny.
Centipede. Yeah.
Metapede.
Being forced to wear
Y'all
the centipede mask.
want to listen to Kid Rock's new song about
No.
Biden and Fauci that has the chorus "Let's go Brandon"?
Listen,
Oh, no.
I went through this listening to new Kid Rock's new song like last year or whenever the fuck that was, and I can't do it again.
Why would you ever do that?
I don't remember the context,
But
it was bad.
I'm sure this song is pretty fucking good.
Okay. I would rather have Dr. Centipede rip out my eardrum than listen to that song.
Well, he wouldn't do that because he's a doctor. He doesn't want to get his medical license taken away.
But it definitely sounded like he was chomping in her ear. It was pretty loud.
Well, he's
I'm pretty
not.
certain.
He's not a doctor. He's just there.
He's just hungry.
Oh, that centipede's not Dr. Centipede? I
No.
see. Okay. He's just a nurse. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, he's in training.
Okay. Well, she didn't care for it, and she threw him on the floor. So she gets out of bed and is like looking for the centipede to kill. And this part of the movie is, I don't think, done very well.
Correct.
Because it's very weird, but not in kind of a good way. Essentially, she looks under her bed and she sees, like, first of all, a spiral. I question their choice of using, it kind of looks like tie-dye, which kind of, like, goes against, like, the aesthetic of the entire rest of the movie, weird choice. Anyways, the spiral turns into, like, her husband's head, and he's got, like, the tentacle, curly spiral tentacle coming out of his mouth, and he's basically just like, oh, what's wrong? Like, why are you afraid of the spiral? Just embrace it. And she's like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, oh, well, how about, he basically tells her about how the inside of her ear is, like, shaped like a spiral. And he's just like, oh, there's a spiral in there. So she stabs herself in the ear and is actually dead at this point.
Not a great way to go.
No, sounded really painful. So now we're at Shuichi's mom's wake, and the cremation smoke is coming out as a spiral again. Again, maybe not my favorite part of the movie, because it's like her face in the spiral smoke, but like also somebody else eating her face, and it was really confusing and done very weirdly. Then again, this was such a weird choice of an ending. So essentially what happens is we see like a curious teacher, who let that other student be beat up or whatever. He's like grading papers, but his like correction marks are like turning into spirals, and he's also chugging a bunch of water. He's looking real gross too. He's got like his pulsating back thing, and his eyes are spirals, but they're like white. And I thought they were pretty cool looking. He looks creepy as hell. And he's watching TV, and on the TV we see that there's a typhoon coming towards the town. A typhoon, obviously shaped like a spiral. And then there's just like a news report about how there's been weird things happening in the town. There's a typhoon on the way, and also there are snails as large as humans. And
that'd be so sick.
We see like her interviewing students about like what's happening, and the students are like, oh my god, they're so cute, I love them, they're great. And then we see the snails on the building, and it's like obviously people, the people who have been having weird pulsating things have turned into people snails, so they're like snails but as big as people. And this is the point where I'll agree the CG is not great at this point. They're just like, you know, snailing up the side of the building or whatever. And then also the news reporter is reporting on the girl who has the spiral hair, but at this point her hair is like huge and it's like flopping around, and everyone's licking spiral lollipops and whatnot. This is the point. This is the point. Human-sized snails is the point when Kyrie is like, okay, let's leave town.
Yeah,
Girl.
I would stay.
So,
Yeah, why not?
I mean, I don't know if
I'm
I
not
want to be
letting
a
snails
snail,
take
though.
my town.
Well, everyone's like brainwashed to love the snails, though. So she's like, "Yeah, let's go. We can go now. We can go at this point. Let's go get my dad." So they go outside to like go to her dad's workshop, and Shuichi like falls, and then she doesn't notice. She walks inside the dad's workshop, and it's like filled with spiraled pottery and stuff. And like a minute before that, we see the dad, like, I don't even know what this item is. He's like looking into something that like looks like a spiral, and he essentially stabs himself in the eye with it. And I don't know what it's supposed to be, but he's dead at this point. So Kyrie's like looking around in the studio, like looking for her dad, and can't find her. This is when Shuichi comes in, and he's like, okay, well, I have some bad news. His body starts like twisting up in itself, and it sounds pretty gross. It's like, so his body, his legs are like just twisting around in a spiral, and he's essentially just like, okay, well, this is it for me. Like, you have to get away. And his body twists so much that he dies, supposedly. And she's sad. And at this point, I'm like, girl, you snooze, you lose, you know? Like, you had so many opportunities to, like, run away with this dude, and now he's dead. She's sad. There's, like, sentimental music playing or whatever. And suddenly he, like, grabs her, and his head, like, spins around, and he's like, come into the spiral. And she's like, oh, no! And then it just, like, cuts off. And then we see chapter 4, which is called Come into the Spiral. And
is this where Chris Rock shows up?
Yeah.
Finally.
So there's like there's like this really weird kind of like, it's not stop motion, but it's like they're showing us an image, but they're kind of just like blinking on it, right? It's like a stable image, and they're just like blinking on different parts of it for the rest of this. So we see like a weird shot of the spiral hair girl looking real gross. At this point, her hair is like so tall that it's like up in the sky, and she kind of looks like a zombie. And she's like a husk of a person, essentially, right? And we also see Kira. So this is all, a lot of this stuff is like taken out of the manga, like out of context, though. Oh my god, someone just threw out the trash and scared the shit out of me.
What is happening?
I'm having a time.
You're very on edge today.
I am. I don't know. It's a spiral.
Did they throw the trash in a spiral? Like it was
yeah.
a football? Like it had a perfect spiral?
Spun it around in the air. There's trash everywhere. We also see Kyrie's dad, you know, stabbed his eye out with whatever that thing was so that it looks like a spiral, which this is a play on that really iconic, like, picture that they use from this for merch all the time, where it's like the girl with like the spiral down to her eyeball or whatever. I don't know. People know.
Yeah,
anyways. Okay. Well,
I just don't know if I've ever seen it, so.
It's whatever.
You
it's
definitely
fine.
have.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you try to tell me things I've seen?
You don't know what I've seen. And I don't know, just like general dead people in the town, right? Like the reporter who was like, huge snails. Yeah, the reporter that was like, huge snails. they tried to leave town and essentially immediately crashed and died, and her eyeballs are like out of her head again.
So spiral.
Also, very weird.
Look, sometimes
And
eyeballs need to just have a break and just get out of the sockets for a little bit.
just pop out. Yeah, you gotta air them out every now and then. And then we also see like Shuichi all spiraled, looking all weird and stuff. And then we see the lake, and there's like spirally smoke all over the place. And then it goes back to Kyrie saying, "Let me tell you about this weird stuff that happened in my hometown." And then it ends.
It's so weird.
Yeah. I do want to point out that the ending song is by a band called Do As Infinity, who I don't know if they're still really popular, but especially at the time, they were super popular because they did a lot of openings and endings for the anime Inuyasha, and they're like highly regarded for it. So I feel like to get them to have a song by them in this movie at the time must have been like a huge get for them.
Well,
Not like that means anything to anybody, but I was like, okay, good for you.
They released 2 albums last year, 2 albums in 2020, 3 albums in 2019.
There you go.
It's like the most prolific fucking band I've ever seen.
So yeah, good for them. Anyways, that was Uzumaki.
Hold on.
Okay.
I was trying to count how many. I can't count. This is too many. There's easily probably released like 70 albums since 2000.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it I think is, like re-recordings. There are a lot of albums. There's also like singles, because anytime a band that's like already like an established band does like an opening or ending for an anime, they release like a single for it, and sometimes it's like only the opening, only the ending, remixes. Like, so I mean, honestly, it could go on and on and on.
Do you think this band is better than Kid Rock?
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
I don't know. At the time that this movie came out, I don't know. I think I really like her voice a lot. So I had never, I don't think, heard the specific song for this movie, but I like them.
Yeah, it checks out. Yeah, I mean, the movie is fine. I don't think I'll ever feel a need to watch it again, but like it's, whatever. There's no Itchy the Killer.
Well,
was it a single title
different
card income?
Well, kind of, almost. We got really
Spiral.
close with Snail Boy. With Snail Boy, yeah, definitely very, very different kind of movie. But I don't know. I think that like they could have done a lot of things different that would have been more effective. But like, it is what it is,
All right. Any news?
I forgot to look, but probably not.
Yeah. No news. New Kid Rock song. That's all. That's
no
the news.
news. Yeah, pretty
Every
much.
bit of news is that.
Yeah. Gotta be so
one
bad.
bit of news.
Ooh, what is
MTV. You remember the show My Super Sweet 16?
Yeah.
They have made it into a horror show called My Super Psycho Sweet 16.
Oh boy.
What?
Cannot wait. Extremely stoked.
I'll end up watching that probably. I'm in the middle of fucking.
Also, The Rock is making a Super Meat Boy movie.
Is that what he's actually making, or is that just still your joke?
No, I'm willing this into existence.
I feel like the only thing he could be playing is a Battletoad with his physique.
Oh my god.
What if it's Asteroid? Like Missile Command? He's gonna play the missile.
I think he's playing Pac-Man, to be honest. Or they're finally making making an adaptation
Hubert.
of Atari's E.T.
Oh my god.
I will watch the shit out of him playing Hubert.
Wow. I did see it. No surprise to anybody else that Stephen King's coming out with a new book, but I think it's going to be like a fantasy
Well, it
book,
is almost a new month,
which is
so
Yeah.
right, exactly.
It's been a whole week.
Because his last book, no, I think his last book was Billy Summers. The one before that was a novella called Later, which I actually
Billy
really
Winters.
enjoyed.
I think they announced
no.
today or something that there's like an adaptation of that coming soon or some shit. I saw Deanna
Yeah,
post
but
about it.
But it's Blumhouse, so
Oh, so it's gonna be bad. All right.
yeah, yep. So yeah, yep.
All right. What'd you watch this week, Katie?
Well, I watched Demons and Demons 2. Honestly, I don't think that I watched a lot. Again, I watched, did I watch anything? I talked about Cliffhanger already. I watched, Godzilla. I don't think I watched anything worth noting,
Right.
honestly.
What about you, Kit?
I had the weird mix of Slime City,
Hell yeah,
Trox,
Slime City rules.
Virgin Suicides,
Oh well.
good. Ghost World, fine, going to be the worst when Zoomers discover it on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Chungking Express, rules, and then Spiral from the Book of Saw. Insane.
What'd you think of Virgin Suicides?
It's really good.
That's so good.
I didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, I
Yeah.
liked it quite a bit.
Ghost World's also very good, but I haven't seen it in like easily a decade.
It for the first little while, I was like, this is going to be insufferable. I don't know if I can watch it since it's just, teen girls hating everything. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
God. But then, it starts them talking to Steve Buscemi and Thora Birch starts like kind of developing feelings for him. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Steve Buscemi should only be liking me.
Yeah, that's right. I should only be liking me. I enjoy both of those movies, so.
All right. I watched a German zombie shot on video movie called Splotched something. I don't know. It was all in German. I couldn't tell what was going on, but it also kind of ruled still. Like the effects are so low budget and ridiculous. It ruled. I watched Weasels Rip My Flesh, which just
Oh yeah.
incredible. It's from like 1979, and the weasels in it are basically paper mache. Cannot recommend enough. I watched Amityville in the Hood, which was hot garbage. It's let's see, how long was this movie? This Amityville the Hood is 70 minutes. About 20 minutes of it in the middle is recapping 2 previous movies. There's about 15 minutes in it that's just montages of like graffiti.
Racism.
Yeah, it's just footage of like a car driving and shooting like graffiti in LA. And I'd say the beginning credits and end credits combined probably totaled about 15 minutes. So
Jesus.
About maybe 20 new minutes of footage in it, and it sucks. It's just unwatchable. I watched Ghosts of Mars. Still rules. I watched the Bill and Ted trilogy. All perfect. I watched... it's called Five Fingers of Death on Letterboxd, but it's called King Boxer on Arrow. But it's like one of the Shaw Brothers movies. And it slaps. It's real good. I watched Airheads. Still the best movie. Then I watched the Ernest cinematic universe, which was just literally all of the Ernest stuff. And I watched Amityville Poltergeist and Amityville Cop before Katie and I, or I guess mostly me, because she had watched them yet, decided we're never watching these movies again, and we are abandoning the Amityville episodes forever. Because
Yeah. Good riddance.
gotta tell you, Amityville Poltergeist, pretty fucking unwatchable. Never mentions Amityville once, and it's literally like there's a scene in it where a ghost child with long black hair that you never see their face comes out of a TV, but in the worst special effects you've ever seen. And then Amityville Cop was just, if you wanted to watch Maniac Cop but worse. Well, Maniac Cop rules, but like it's Maniac Cop, but like
Bad.
Made by the people that work with the Polonia brothers, and then also never mentions Amityville. I guess go watch that.
Great. Yeah. I guess I just realized that like we never like you didn't even tell me about any of the movies. We just like skipped right over it. So
yeah, they're just the worst. There's nothing to really tell. It's like Amityville Poltergeist was literally just a haunted house movie that they just slapped Amityville on.
A man doesn't even try to fist fight a ghost child. I'm not in anymore.
Yeah, what the fuck. Eventually, we'll do a regular episode on Amityville Karen because we have to. That's the only one I will watch now. Like we were talking, so it'll be out by the time this episode's out. But Katie and I are diving into the Demons movies for bonus episodes, and instead of Amityville. And in the time from when we started watching the Amityville movies until now, they've announced or put out 27 Amityville movies.
Yeah.
And I refuse. I refuse.
No.
All right. Shout outs. Can't say Amityville movies.
I've got a shout out for something just as bad as the Amityville movies. The Baseball Hall of Fame, garbage institution.
Get Barry Bonds in there.
Barry Bonds just got shut out. This was his final year, and he did not make it. And I am mad. Garbage.
What's up with that?
Hulk Hogan's in a Hall of Fame for wrestling. How are you not gonna put fucking Barry Bonds in?
They put David Ortiz in the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer, and like, I like Big Papi, but come on. You're gonna put a lifelong designated hitter in the Hall of Fame and not Barry Bonds? Get out of here.
Is Mark McGwire in there?
Trash. No, he also got shut out.
I was wondering if Mark McGwire somehow made it in and then not Barry Bonds, but
that would
be
insane.
That
God.
period was like the last time I've known anything about baseball.
That's like the last time it was wildly entertaining.
If I know the names of the people you're talking about and they're not going into the Hall of Fame, then like, what are you actually doing?
I was about to be like, is Nolan Ryan still playing? And I was like, wait, Nolan Ryan's got to be like 70.
What about Chipper Jones?
He only retired like 4 years ago, I think. He's on the ballot for the Hall of Fame next year, actually.
Frank Thomas still making pill commercials?
Yeah, he's still doing boner pill commercials.
What about you, Katie?
I'm gonna shout out starting a new hobby because I decided that I want to learn how to crochet, and then I watched a YouTube video and I taught myself how to do it, and now I'm having a lot of fun. So, try something new or don't. It doesn't matter. Do it if you want.
Just do whatever you
do. I feel like at the beginning of the pandemic, there was like a really big push for like, you're going to be spending all this time at home to like do this or do that, learn a language. And it's like, no, fuck you. Everyone's sad. You don't want to do anything, so it's like, whatever. If you want to learn something, just like do it. Like, I don't know. You're never too old.
Joke's on them because some of us have been going to work the whole time.
Well, that too, and yeah, also it's like I don't know. I feel like that's like a really big push for like the new year too. You're like, oh, you know, new year, new me, which is never actually a thing. But like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people are intimidated to try new stuff because they feel like either they're too old or too young or whatever. And like, listen, I just ordered like gloves that you wear so that you don't get arthritis while you're knitting or crocheting or whatever. And like, I'm just rocking it. I'm just adding to my like my old lady hobbies along with cross stitch. So, I don't know. Just because something looks intimidating doesn't mean it is. Like, I watched a video and I was like, oh, okay, and then I did it. So like, just like do whatever you want. Shout out just doing whatever you want. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Cut to like 4 episodes from now when Katie's just like, I'm a libertarian.
I saw this shirt that said, I don't know if it was a shirt or if it was just like a meme that said like it said like be a slut, do whatever you want or something like that, and I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's just do whatever we want.
Shout out to the Rolling Stone headline that said, "Let the green M&M be a nasty little slut."
Yeah, listen,
Fact.
give her pumps back, okay? Don't be taking away badass bitches. Also,
Yeah. Give
shout
her the
out
Madonna
to-
pointy bra and a gun.
My favorite meme I saw of the whole thing was like, you know, like a screenshot of Tucker Carlson's show where he just looks constipated and confused all the time. And it was like, you know,
funny,
it was like I forget what, like, you know, it was like essentially like GOP. Like, sex is a biological thing, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, also the GOP. This is a hot woman. And it was just a plain green M&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, call people. Oh shit! What was that headline that was about how like Biden called a Fox
He called
reporter
Peter Ducey
like
a son of a bitch. A stupid son of a bitch.
son of a bitch, or a stupid son of a bitch. That's what it was. And I was like, listen, here is where he and I agree. I back that. You know, do whatever. Yeah.
I think like Shane put it best that like Joe Biden would be the coolest person alive if he had no power, because he would just be some stupid old
uncle.
man, fucking like
an old guy. Yeah.
just mumbling shit at people.
Honestly.
I got 2 shout outs. One, back into 90 Day Fiance after a little break.
No.
And it is just a fucking nightmare of unimaginable proportions this season of The Other Way. And also I don't know how it took me this long to shout this out. I think I meant to do it in like well, we had that break. That's why. So we had a break where we didn't really record, but there's a new Drowning Man song.
For like a month.
Yeah. Drowning Man released a song on January 1st for like I don't know, the first time in since like 2005. And it fucking rules. It's so good. I can't wait to hear like the album they're recording, because Drowning Man's like top 5 band for me, and I'm very excited that they're back.
Oh yeah.
All right, Kit, what are we watching next week?
What did I say? I forgot. I don't have my phone on me.
The only one I specifically remember was The Lighthouse, was one of the ones you were gonna pick.
All right, let's do The Lighthouse.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's time.
Okay.
It's mermaid pussy time.
I'm ready. I am nervous because this is one of the ones that I haven't seen because everyone wouldn't stop talking about it at the time, and then I was just like, I'm not going to see it. And now I think it's on Prime, right? Finally.
I think so.
And I was like, I've seen so many memes and shit, obviously at this point, and I'm like a little nervous to watch it. Oh no. Okay.
Immediately after watching, I tweeted "meaty mermaid pussy," and
yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that.
There were so many questions. It's like just go watch some movies. You'll figure it out.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, I found your 3 movies that I wrote them down so we remember. Also, should have done this earlier. We got a new Patreon person that I forgot about. So I was looking at my notes. So Patreon shout out to our new patron, Katie.
Not me.
Yeah, different spelling.
You know what? Still the best name out there. So
All right, whatever.
Beep, beep.
It's not a cool name like Kid Rock. I mean, I don't know what we're pretending to
Okay,
be
well,
here. Yeah. So Lighthouse next week. If you also would like to get a late in the episode shout out for being our Patreon, go join our Patreon at
Immediately
patreon.com/IOPSufferpodcast.
immediately after talking about mermaid pussy.
Yeah. Look, that's the only kind of
Yeah,
shout out I would
sorry.
want on an episode. So
oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like 2 weeks from now or whatever when this episode drops, and it's just immediately like Katie canceled their Patreon.
Yeah. Unsubscribe.
Right. Listen, it wouldn't be the first time, right?
You can buy merch at our storefront tier shop. Leave us a rating on Spotify and a rating and review on iTunes. Tell us your favorite type of spiral in the review.
Yeah.
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
There's at
I guess
least-
there's two.
No, there's actually like 4 different kinds of actual spirals. Anyways.
All right, gray ball. Follow us on Instagram at IOPSuffer Podcast. Follow Kate at Hidden Kitstery. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face. Listen to my other podcast, Nate Kate Movie Club. I'm gonna shout it out again because I don't remember when it's coming out, but I was on an episode of Girl That's Scary talking about House of the Dead 1 and 2. So go listen to that.
Brr, brr, brr.
All right. I hope you spiral but
Squidward.
mermaid pussy.
No.
Katie's gonna be so bummed next week.
At least I know.
It's coming.
I'm nervous, but at least I'm not going into it like,
Well,
with bright eyes.
you just wait till my first movie pick.